Welcome to The Ripple, where extraordinary women executives get real about their career journeys. This season, thanks to our partnership with GNW Consulting, you'll hear even more stories from women leaders about how they're building visibility for themselves, their careers, and their companies. I'm your host, Ashley Laabs, and today we are joined by the electric Bridgett McGowen, award-winning international speaker who's been on the same programs as President Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Mel Robbins, Deepak Chopra, and so many more. She is here to talk to us about what it means for your presence to make an impact and affirm your identity. Bridgett, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to talk to you.
It's great to be here, Ashley. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, I want to start by hearing about your personal story. You've done so much. You've spoken on stages with so many amazing people. You've written several books. How did you get to this place where you knew that speaking was what you wanted to be doing?
I found out that speaking was my jam, Ashley, probably around the age of 9 or 10. Now, I know that doesn't happen for everybody where they know what they're going to do. And let me be very clear. I didn't know at 9 or 10. But the thing was, I was the church school secretary, and every Sunday morning I couldn't wait to deliver my report on the lesson and the number in attendance and collection and so on and so forth. And it just came comfortable for me. And then as I progressed into adulthood, that getting on the mic, getting on the stage, I loved it. I started finding purpose. I started sharpening my focus, making sure I understood who was my audience, what did my audience want. And that goes for any business, right? Any brand, any industry. Figuring out what it is you love to do that you could just do effortlessly, but then sharpening that thing that you do really well, and then making sure you're giving the peeps what they want.
You know, I relate to your story a lot. I grew up in the church as well, and I was in the church choir and really discovered my love for music being in the church choir. And I think that there's something when you have the opportunity to be in community outside of your family, especially as a kid, I think it's such a great place to learn what your strengths are, what you're passionate about. You said that it came easy to you and that you just loved it. Did it do something for you? Did it feel like people were, hey, people are paying attention to me, or like I have a role in this place, or like what was it?
It was, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking they're picking up what I'm putting down. Right? It's not enough for you to love what you do, but others have to love it as well, especially if you're wanting it to be profitable, especially if you're wanting to build that visibility in your career. It's not enough that you have an audience of one, you, or maybe an audience of a few, family and friends, but it has to be something where others are loving it too. And so that was my aha moment, especially after I got laid off from corporate America. And I've been traveling the country with a team of other people who were, or not, I shouldn't say people, they were experts, they were professionals, they were amazing. I traveled the country doing workshops and conferences and so on. And when I got laid off from that position, I said, I think I'm going to do this full-time speaking thing as my business. And I just went on out there. But it wasn't enough that I loved what I did, but the other component was I had to say and ask myself first, do other people like it and love it? And so that was the turning point for me.
It's always that Venn diagram between, you know, what you want to put out there, what you're an expert at, what you want people to do, and then what they actually care about and what they're going to listen to. And it's that part in the middle that gets you someplace, right? I think that's such a hard thing for so many people. You know, we both work with leaders who are trying to develop their visibility. And I'm curious how you tackle that with folks when you see that they're so focused on what they're trying to do that they can't really connect with their audience.
Right. It's really uncomfortable, quite honestly, trying to figure out what is that secret sauce. What
Mhm.
is that meeting in the middle look like? How do you pull that together? And when you figure that out, it's transformative, Ashley. When you can figure out what is it that I have to offer and what is it that my ideal client is craving, my audience is begging for. But it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of questions. It takes a lot of research and it takes time. It takes patience. Sometimes it just does not happen overnight, but the process and what you learn about yourself during the journey is just off the charts.
What was that special secret sauce for you? What did you learn?
I learned that it's not enough just to have an idea. I learned that if you are able to put people in a better position than they were before they met you, then you are golden. There's just so many. Putting myself on the back burner was another lesson, and making it more about the other person and less about me. And then, especially as a professional speaker, Ashley, when I partner with a client who wants to bring me on as a speaker for an engagement, I lean into that word engagement because I want them to see me as a partner who's going to engage their audiences, who's going to bring value, who's going to build on their current mission. I learned so many lessons and finding the different ingredients for that secret sauce. That was probably one of the biggest ones, was making sure I wasn't just showing up as a person for the moment, as someone to rough the mic for 60 minutes, but I was presenting myself as a valued partner, almost as if I was on their company roster, as if I was one of their employees for this engagement. That was incredibly, incredibly transformative for me to not so much focus on me, and how energetic I am. They don't care about that. They want to know, how are you going to put my team in a better place after having engaged with you, Bridgett?
Yeah. Well, I think your energy is part of that for sure, right? And you don't even need to be me for people to get that. Like, I get that just from our conversation so far. I think our listeners are probably getting that too. And that's something I want to ask you about because I've got a background as a theater kid, and I think when you're acting, you bring your whole body into it, you bring everything into it. But there's something about speaking. When I started public speaking, I remember feeling like a wall between those two things. And it's like, well, I have to have a good idea, and I have to present it the right way, and it has to be useful. And it took so much longer for that embodiment to come in. And I think it was just because it felt so vulnerable in an emotional setting. And I encounter this with my LinkedIn clients all the time where they feel so uncomfortable being personal and like being themselves in a professional arena. Like that's just like there's a disconnect between these two things. How do you encourage people to feel more embodied and in touch with their natural energy and kind of bring some of that, not acting, but some of that acting energy into what they're doing?
Ashley, we need to unlearn the lie that being visible is being vain. Now, for
Yeah.
some people, it can be over the top. When you hear these different voices and see these different personas on social media, some of it can look like vanity, but
Yeah.
visibility is not vanity. We need to get away from the idea that speaking up is being too much, that confidence has to be earned. No, visibility is not arrogance, it is advocacy. We have to unlearn the myth that speaking up is a privilege for only a select few rather than a right, a privilege for everybody. See, when you understand that verbal presence and physical presence is a lever of influence and equity and confidence and all the things, the spotlight becomes less self promotion and more about driving meaningful change. Whether it's with a client, whether it's with your followers, you deserve to be seen. You do not need permission to shine. And speaking up and owning the microphone, owning the environment you're in, does not make you less likable. Remember that. It makes you unforgettable.
I love that. It's so true. And I think there are so many times we hear messages like that. And if we're not ready for it, it just doesn't come through, right? Sometimes you can hear that message 100 times, and it's not until the 101st time that you're ready to hear it. But you're so right. And something that I'm curious about, did you ever feel at any point in your career that you were disconnected from that authenticity and you were disconnected from that confidence?
I did. and I wish it had come sooner. I will tell
Mm.
you this, that after working in corporate America and feeling like I needed to show up a certain way and feeling like I needed to look and sound the way that my employer wanted me to look and sound, I felt like I lost some authenticity. But here's a little secret, Ashley. That authenticity component for me has been quite the challenge because I am what's called a late discovery adoptee. I am adopted, but I did not know about it until well into adulthood. And so when we talk about, Bridgett, have you ever lost your authenticity? It's kind of like, child, I'm still trying to find it. Because for decades, I showed up as who I thought others wanted me to be, whether it was the adopted family, whether it was employers in corporate America, or so on and so forth. So it was during that time in corporate America when I found out about being adopted. So trying to navigate this crazy new knowledge and then trying to figure out how do I show up authentically when I've been showing up as the wrong person all this time is tough. And so trying to find a way to lead from conviction and not convenience, or from a space that makes others comfortable, it was tough. But I found a way where I said to myself, I can be forgettable or unforgettable for all of the right reasons. And I found a way to say, Bridgett, your voice has to be steady. Your decisions have to be bold. And you have to be unafraid sometimes to say, you know what, I'm not sure about that. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to find out. So authenticity isn't about perfection. It's more about presence and just kind of sitting in the moment, taking stock of what's happening, what's going on around you, what's going on within you, and deciding which lane you'll take. The easy one, or the one maybe that's a little less traveled, but oh my goodness, that's filled with rewards of you having that visibility that you so deserve.
You know that moment when the one person who knows how everything works suddenly doesn't work there anymore? Your go-to person is gone, and no one seems to know how to use one of your critical platforms. It happens. GNW Consulting can step in when your team hits that kind of gap. They keep things running while you figure out the next move, whether that's backfiling, rethinking the stack, or just getting your footing again. They've got the skills, the calm, and the context to make transitions feel a lot less stressful. Plus, they're a big supporter of Wednesday Women and the way we amplify women execs authentically. So check out gnwconsulting.com to learn how they can support teams during pivotal moments and make life easier for modern marketing orgs. Man, your story is so incredible, and I can only imagine how much something like that would shatter your worldview and your view of yourself. And it really sounds like you came to a place where there was no right way, there was just your way, and you were committed to it.
100%, 100%. Now, I did not have all of the answers right away. And it took years upon years, Ashley, to get to a point where I don't know, where I wasn't super angry, where I was comfortable with the reality, this new reality that consumed me. It took some time. It took some time alone. It took some time talking with friends who made safe spaces for me to share that new truth. And yeah, it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. So the confidence people see on stages and hear on microphones, it's real. It's honest. It's authentic. But do know deep down inside, I'm still trying to figure stuff out. So that's a message for listeners too. That perfection that you see in public of those people that you admire, those people who look like they are total rock stars and powerhouses, that public perfection, that public power comes from a lot of private practice and private work. And so that
Yeah.
means you have some work to do as well that maybe everybody doesn't see on the surface. But oh my goodness, when you get on the microphone, the literal one or the figurative one, oh, they see and hear you.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think that's why we're so drawn to the messy stories, right? We want people who are accomplished, who feel like, even if they don't have all the answers, they generally know what they're doing. And then we want them to get on stage and tell us the messy parts so that we don't have to go through them or that we can relate to them or feel less alone, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. So we can relate to them. We so much relate to perfection. It's nice. However, it doesn't stir that feeling in you. It
Yeah.
doesn't turn the wheels in your head. It doesn't speed up the heart rate where it has you feeling like, I might be able to do this.
Perfection is really isolating, I think, both when you are receiving it from somebody, when you see somebody kind of performing their perfection for you, it feels like, oh, this is impossible. I'll never be that. And that's very isolating. But I think also when you are the person putting that out there and you think, I have to be perfect, I have to get it just right. No one will respect me if I don't perform at this certain level. Both of them are very isolating. And to an extent, neither one is true, right? Neither story is true because nothing's perfect. I think something that's so interesting about what you were saying, it sounds like a really interesting confluence of things in your life to find out later that you're adopted while you are kind of going through a breakup with corporate, because that's another kind of quote family and a place where you take on a role and you're performing to people's expectations of that role. And so often I hear from leaders that it never becomes the thing that was promised to them, right? And so there's that whole relationship that breaks down too. That's a lot to go through at the same time. And I'm curious, even just on the corporate part of things, how did you deal with that loss of identity when you came out of such a big system of work?
I'm one of those people who keeps moving, Ashley. I actually found out about the adoption well before going into corporate America, and it paralyzed me, quite frankly. And so while in corporate America, I still had not necessarily told people about the adoption because I'm still trying to navigate it. And I had been in corporate America, or I'd known about the adoption several years before going into corporate America. And so I was still trying to navigate this new life and figure out the meaning behind it, trying to understand the why behind it and all of that good stuff. So I've had so many instances in life that I don't always share with people where I just had to keep moving. It would paralyze me for a moment, but I couldn't let it just completely stymie me. The world kept going. Bills still needed to be paid. Family still was dependent upon me, meaning my immediate family, my husband, and those that I love and live with here in Arizona. I could not let that stop me. And I wish I had beautiful, wonderful, encouraging advice for those who may find themselves in a conundrum where they're hit with earth-shattering news and now they're wondering, what in the world do I do? Or they find themselves trying to reassemble or recreate their identity. What do you do? Child, I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't have the perfect answer. I will say, keep moving. Yes, stop. Yes, cry, scream, yell, get mad, whatever it is. But then have a network. Wednesday women are fabulous.
I
Have
agree.
Okay, I'm wearing my Wednesday women purple, as a matter of
You
fact.
are.
Yes, I almost put on something else and I said, no, this is Wednesday women. Bridgett, put on purple. But
Love it.
find that network, whether it's your very best friend, whether it's a high school classmate, whether it was your dorm room buddy. I don't know. Find someone who's going to let you just be, who's going to just hold that space. But it was tough. I mean, I suffered the loss of identity. And then I'm in corporate America and, working with a team of people who are so incredible. And then to lose that job. So there's another loss. And the hits just don't stop coming. But you know what? You can punch back even harder than the hits. Just know that.
That's a really good thing to remember. And I always admire people. I mean, grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, but I always admire people who, when they're going through things, they can kind of have a sense of privacy about it. Because I'm always like, I'm always like, here's what's going on. I'm just like telling everybody I cannot keep quiet. I have no chill about these things. Everybody knows my business. And I'm just like, well, if I just let it out, then everybody knows why I'm weird. And like maybe it's TMI, but like those people can just leave. Like, just don't like me. If you don't like TMI, that's fine. But there's always a part of me that wishes that I had a little more discretion about those things, that I could hold them a little closer to the chest. I mean, how did you feel about that? Did you feel like really good about having that privacy and just being like, here's who I am at work and here's who I am in private? Or did you find, as you went through this, that man, that would have been a lot easier if I had shared more along the way? Like, how did you feel about that?
Oh, Ashley. So here's the deal. Not to turn this into a therapy session, but here goes.
I mean, I'm here for it.
As a child, I knew how to code switch like nobody's business. And that, I don't know if it served me well or not, but it stuck with me consciously, subconsciously throughout adulthood. And so being able to separate those two worlds was always very, very easy for me. I don't think it was to my benefit to separate those two worlds, but I did keep them very separate. I didn't grow up in a household where you hung out with your coworkers. It was 9 to 5. You show up early, you do your job, you mind your business, you clock out and you go home, and you keep those lives separate. That was what I grew up seeing. And then also
Yeah.
with the code switching as a child, I was one person at home, I was another person at school. And there's a whole other reason and psychology behind all of that. But again, I just kind of carried that through life. So I was one person at work and another person at home, not diametrically different people where, I'm got this wild and crazy life. So that was not hard for me. However, I do think that that did not benefit me. So I'm working on that now. I am working on making sure I have the same voice and same persona across all environments, right? But I first had to get very quiet, right? With connecting with my voice, no matter where it was, whether it was in the boardroom or in the classroom or in my home office. I got very quiet. I stopped consuming so many outside opinions, and I encourage others to stop consuming so many outside perceptions and opinions and start tuning in to what you actually think, what you actually feel, and pay attention to what lights you up and what drains you. And then give yourself permission to speak, to be, even when it doesn't sound or look polished. And once you realize that being you, that speaking up, it isn't just a career tool and understanding your voice, but it's a form of empowerment and civic engagement. Give yourself full permission to be you and let those lines blur a little bit. People want the real you. Not that I was giving people the fake me, but again, I was dealing with this adoption thing. I didn't know who I was. So find your voice and use it as often as possible. And don't wait until it's perfect. Don't wait until circumstances are perfect. Do it sooner than later.
I like the advice to be quiet. That's such a hard thing to do. So many of our lives revolve around the digital world, and our digital worlds are just constructed into various feeds that are constantly pouring information into us. And there's no shortage of people who want to give you advice on your LinkedIn feed, on your Instagram feed. There's no shortage of people who want to give you advice in your email inbox, in your life, on your bookshelves. There's so many people who want to pour their way of thinking into you. But taking the time to be quiet and be with yourself and remember that you're not like an empty vessel that needs to be filled up with all of that. Like, there's some stuff in there that you need to listen to. It's such a powerful reminder. It's so simple, but it's increasingly hard to do when we define our expertise by having seen everything and read everything and gone to every conference, You said that you're trying to show up kind of more consistently and kind of blend these parts of yourself everywhere you go. Do you find that your speaking engagements are more personal now in a way?
100%. I'll never forget delivering a presentation in Washington, D.C. back in, I think that was maybe around 2018, 19, somewhere around there. It was before the pandemic. And I remember sharing a very vulnerable moment. And do you know I had more people leaning in. I mean, people always lean in, but people talking to me after the presentation. I mean, the line was just wrapped around the room of people saying time and time again that resonated with me. That so made sense. I got just on and on and on. And I have worked to make those presentations a little bit more personal. It's still, most of my typical content, but I'm doing a more or engaging in a more concerted effort to bring in personal stories a little bit more, and they resonate with people as applicable. And I see that bringing in those personal stories is bringing in that personal brand, if you will, and it really gives people permission to speak boldly, to show up imperfectly, to lead without a title. See, my
Yeah.
brand exists to shift how we view voice, less as a performance tool and more as a platform for opportunity. So when I
Yeah.
show up fully as myself, when I tell those personal stories, it tells other women, especially women of color, that they can too. My wins are a mirror. If you can see me do it, you know it's possible for you too.
That's a really wonderful message for us to end on. Bridgett, I'm so glad you shared your story with us. It was a pleasure getting to chat with you today, and I think our listeners are going to be eating this one up and maybe taking a little time out to listen to themselves today.
100%. Start with your truth. Your reputation should be a reflection, not a performance. Define success on your terms, not social media's, and protect your voice like it's currency, because it is.
Absolutely. Very precious currency. I agree. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Bridgett. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Now that we're at the end of today's episode, we hope you reflect on how Bridgett's story might inspire your own. Where are the gaps between your identity and your professional presence? And have you ever thought that building visibility was vain or performative? If so, why? If today's show inspired you to think of an extraordinary woman leader in your life, let her know about the Wednesday Women Executive Membership. It's a safe space for women leaders to tackle any challenge, ask questions, and uplift others. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Your ratings help us grow and inspire even more people. Thank you to our Season 2 sponsor, GNW Consulting, to our executive producers, Melissa Moody and Leslie Greenwood, and to our technical producer, Yelena Georgievich, with Kind Media Productions. I'm your host, Ashley Laabs, hoping this small ripple creates a big wave in your life. Until next time.